what sounded like occult prayers when the three of them got into his car in the morning on the way to school. There was no consistency to it whatsoever. The idea was basically to project that there was some secret regimen of behaviors that Greg adhered to out of spiritual or small group obligation. The nature of the obligation wasn't as important as the strength of his dedication to it. And for a kid who mostly just hid in his room consuming fringy internet-era media and coming up with ways to alienate people/himself, this was a pretty easy thing to do. Greg didn't have the context for this at the time, of course. He was just being himself, and his behavior was just that, teen routine. But in retrospect, after the fact, these were the shapes it had, that we gave it. Sarah took note. It was practically ingrained in her. She was carefree with her attention and love, and only had to hear about someone's misfortune or depression before she hurled herself wholeheartedly into it. Her passion and talent was for being there. Until whatever problem became hers as well, impressively hers, so bone-deep ran this empathy. She was the sort of person to whom, no matter how well you knew her, you could express the slightest sadness or upset, and she would commit hours to talking it through with you. Her time and warmth and attention would pool up around you until the problem had disintegrated within it. To those who liked her, Sarah was a girl of boundless enthusiasm and an open heart, a book that wanted to be read. To those who didn't, she was a dilettante, a passionate fool. She had brown hair that curled more the longer it got, and was a beautiful soul. She seemed like the kind of girl who could be convinced to join a cult. She fell for it, of course. She started by asking Beth, whom we hadn't gotten to yet either, and while Beth agreed Greg was weird, as she always had, it was in a sisterly way and thus wasn't systematized. Sarah bounced from person to person in this manner until she talked to Claire, who herself was an agent of the dark and had, truth be told, her own separate agenda that was as yet unconnected to ours. "Yeah," Claire said, skimming her eyes over the long line of cars waiting to exit the parking lot. It was second lunch period when sophomores and juniors ate, and they were outside Adena High. The unlikely bond between the two of them had formed over a shared and wicked love of mid-2000s pop-punk, which Sarah had developed before they were friendly, but after she learned of Claire's interest in such music, so she was genuinely passionate about it, but the passion had a larger goal. Anyway, Claire said, "Do you know anything about Half-Blessed?" "I think I've heard the name," Sarah said, which was typically how she engaged with Claire's expansive cultural milieu. Claire, at present, had a shaggy Chelsea haircut that was dyed blue, and wore a seasonal leather jacket whose pins changed daily, which lent her the kind of standoffish wisdom of someone who inhabits multiple eras. Had you asked Claire at this point, she wouldn't have called her and Sarah friends exactly, nor would she have admitted that her love for pop-punk, a genre she had never experienced in its contemporary moment, was anything but ironic. "Is that like a band?" Sarah said. "I guess it was a band after the fact." Another common answer. There was always an obscure band buried somewhere. "But it's more of a belief system," Claire said. "A belief system? Like some kind of religious thing?" Claire shrugged. "I mean, as much as you'd consider iconography religious," she used air quotes. "You'd see plenty of inverted crosses and whatnot, but they're not exactly burning churches. Not in this decade, anyway." She paused and bit her lip, seeming to consider. "I guess it's more of a society, is how they would put it, with some magical overtones. Basically teenage Illuminati, but more social. Like about ostracizing and status climbing. Or like they'll squat your house and slaughter a pig in the living room, blind fires, stuff like that. Basically, it's just a clique, but with secret handshakes, sex..."